I'm joined today by a special guest, my man Ian. Now, how do I pronounce it? Is it Wendt? Wendt?
Yeah, Wendt.
Wendt.
Just like, where'd I go?
Just want to make sure I'm getting it right.
Yeah, you're good. That D's silent.
Yeah. So Ian is the founder and CEO of official Patriot gear. For those of you watching video, I'm wearing one of his shirts right now. I love his stuff. I'm stoked to talk to him. Ian, welcome, man. It's great to have you.
Dude, thanks for having me. We just can. I feel like we connected like just a couple weeks ago, but bro, it took one post for me to know that we needed to connect. It was that post of it's you standing out there in freaking cowboy boots with the giant sign that just says, "Hey, we can disagree and still be friends."
Yeah, man.
It's like, it's an amazing concept, right? Like, imagine that.
It used to be something that I thought we didn't have to say. You know, it used to be something
Exactly.
that I thought was a given, but these days, man, even that post created a ton of controversy. It was crazy.
Oh, I can imagine. What did people say? I'm actually curious, dude. I didn't go through all the comments, but like,
yeah,
what did people say that were against it? I guess
it was everything from just not if you believe this or not if you believe that, or all the way to people just not even saying anything like that, but just straight up calling me like a white supremacist. I guess because I'm a big white guy with a beard. I have no idea why they would call me that. But, even more hilarious is that I have a mixed race daughter, but, I'm a white supremacist anyway.
Well, yeah, dude, I'm a ginger Nazi white bitch. So,
Is that your best one? Yeah, it's people just get so angry and there's no repercussions for them saying stuff on the internet. But yeah, and it was truly like hate from the right and the left. It was like, people on the right, not if you're a communist believing socialist, and, people from the left, like, not if you don't support critical race theory, or, whatever it was. But it was just like, I have this unique ability to piss off everybody.
Everyone.
Yeah, but it's really just saying like the most innocuous stuff, like work hard, take personal responsibility, let's all talk and be adults, stuff like that. But a lot of people don't like that.
Well, I was going to say, isn't it interesting that the thing that pisses off everyone is unity?
Yeah.
Because that's basically what you were promoting, right?
Yep.
You're promoting unity. That's what that is. Unity comes from understanding that.
They're basically saying we don't want unity. Like, that's it. Like, fuck that. We're past that point. We don't want to talk to the other side, and that is scary, man. That's truly scary. So
that's what I'm sure we're going to dive into this, but like that's number one. That's why I wanted to connect with you, because I immediately noticed that that's what you were promoting, and that's something that I stand by 100%. And then number two, I mean, dude, that's my message. It's like, I hate to say this, but I think that at this point, it's like we are either at this point or we're close to the point of being the divided states of America. And dude, that's how we lose. People don't understand that, but it's like this whole thing that's happened over the last, almost 2 years now or whatever. I don't even know how long this stupid thing has been, but it has been manufactured to divide. And it is happening. It's all been because we can't make change, and we cannot actually progress unless we are united. I mean, there's a reason why people say united we stand, divided we fall. It's the truth.
And everybody loses if we divide.
And the enemy knows that, dude. Like, it's crazy to me, man. But you're right. It's not just the left. It's not just the right. It's everyone. Like, no one wants to meet in the middle, and everyone has to be right, and everybody's emotionally charged, and everybody reacts right away to everything that happens, and nobody wants to take accountability.
Yep.
And it's just like, man, it's scary. It's like you said, it's scary, dude.
It truly is, man. And I had Maj Touré on the last episode, and we were talking about like true libertarianism, and because I do lean right on a lot of things, but in general, I consider myself more of a libertarian because, there's other things where I am definitely more like, I think you should stay the hell out of our lives as far as like what we put in our bodies and stuff like, things like that. But we were talking about that, and it's like these days, like you have to, like, they don't want to hear that. Like, it's like you're either this team or this team, and that's it. That's the only option. When look, dude, I think the majority of Americans fall in between those two things, you know.
That's true.
But if you're, you know, I believe in the Second Amendment. I support, you know, support it wholeheartedly. The First Amendment. I, you know, I have the American flag on everything, and
Yep.
people see that, and now it's like you immediately say, "Oh, that's a conservative, racist guy because he's got the American flag and he's white," and it's like, holy crap, dude!
It's not just conservative, racist guy. I mean, dude, it's waving the flag now is considered extremism.
Yeah. It's wild.
I mean, my entire brand is literally considered hate speech now. It's like yeah. I'm a walking billboard for hate speech, bro.
You're going to get me canceled, man.
It's crazy. But you know what? I'm actually going to go back on something. So what I just said before was we are the divided states of America. Here's the thing. I don't know if that's, like I said, I think we're either that or we're close to that. But realistically, what's really happening is the media, and I'm not just talking about mainstream media, I'm talking about social media, I'm talking about all the media, is what's making it that way, is what's making it seem that way, right? Yeah. Like if social media didn't exist and if the mainstream media didn't exist, think about it. Number one, what would COVID be? Like really, what would COVID wouldn't be anything. It wouldn't even be like no one would be worried about it, right?
Yeah.
And then the racism thing, dude, you walk outside no matter where you are in this country and you talk to 5 people, and I guarantee you 5 out of 5 are going to tell you that they don't judge people by the color of their skin or look at them differently.
It's a non-issue that they make into an issue to drive division. And I think it's important when we have conversations like this, because I have a lot of conversations like this with guests. I think it's important that we define who they is, right? Because we oftentimes say, like I made a post where I was like, you know, they want us to hate each other. Don't let them win. And people are like, well, who's they? What are you talking about? And you know,
I say it all the time too.
Yeah, it's the corporate media. Yeah. And I was actually listening to a podcast on the way to the studio today. It was Joe Rogan. He had Ari Shaffir on, who's a comedian, but he made a good point. Ari did. He was saying, you know, a lot of these articles. So first off, these media platforms, they are businesses. They got to make money. How do they make money? By getting your eyeballs, by getting your attention. How do they do that? Right. Controversy, right? Yep. But Ari was saying, like, a lot of this, man, it's like a guy who was a freelance writer who needed to make his $300 to write his article, and he wrote his article, and that was it, and he was done with it. He made his money, but then it was put out into the world, and it caused all this controversy, and it's like, he didn't give a shit. He was just trying to get paid. He was just doing his job, but it's all driven by this business model where they know what they have to do, right, to divide us, to create that controversy. I mean, it's a reason why far left and left-leaning publications and outlets are still talking about Trump. Like they're still, you know, everything is about Trump still because he was their lifeline. He saved their businesses, you know?
Yep.
What do you think about that?
It's the fear porn, right?
Yeah.
And this is, you know, another reason why I think, you know, we can relate to each other is because I also don't consider myself right or left. I mean, I obviously lean right just like you because I'm, you know, pro Second Amendment and everything. But I think I'm getting to a point where I consider myself more of like a constitutionalist, right?
Yeah, I would agree for myself. Yeah.
Like because libertarian for me, I'm not so much like, hey, just do your own thing and I don't care. Because that's kind of what libertarian is, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more like I'm just going to do me, you do you, and we're good. I'm not so much that because I do believe that we need to work together, but I am very much not on one side or the other. Like I am just very pro freedom over everything.
I agree.
And freedom over everything means both sides. It's like, I hate the fact that there are people that are disrespecting our flag and that are kneeling and that are doing this and are doing that. But you know what? That's why America is great. That's why America is the freest country in the world, because they have their right to do that. If they're not causing any harm to anyone, even if I hate it, they have the right to do that, just like I have the right to do what I want to, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like we've gotten to a point where it's so divided and people don't understand that. And it's like, oh no, they can't do that. But it's like, yeah, but then when they try to tell you you can't do something, you get pissed off. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Exactly.
And it comes from both sides, dude. You know, the more that the more that things like grow on social media and stuff, the more I realize that even the right, dude, the right is very divisive in a lot of ways as well. Like there's a lot of fear porn and there's a lot of content out there that it's not helping anything. It's
Right.
only making things worse.
Yeah.
It's causing more misinformation. It's driving people to react and become very emotional, and it's only dividing more and more and more. I've said this a few times now on like lives and things, but I feel like the mainstream media is like the left's virus or the left's like enemy, and social media now is the right's virus or the right's enemy, because that's where a lot of the right is getting their stuff that they're anyway. I think people need to kind of stop and think for just a second before they react, and just realize, like, when your pendulum swings too far to one side or the other, you're out, man. Like that's not where we want to be.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Jordan Peterson, who I'm a big fan of, he makes some good
I
points
love
about,
Peterson.
Honestly, no matter what, and look, again, just like you and I, we both lean right. I don't think there's any question about that. But he makes a good point. He says the right and the left need each other. Like, they exist for a reason. There's a spectrum of human beliefs and human behaviors. And with no left, the right can get out of check. And with no right, the left can get out of check. Because
that's right.
In any hierarchy, which, I'm big on meritocracy. I'm big on, like, I make my own way. I work my ass off. I eat what I kill, right? But in any society with millions and millions of people, there are people who are going to need some help. Like, that's just flat out. There's people with disabilities. There's, it's the welfare state today is way beyond what it should be, 100%. But if you take it to the extreme right and you say, like, everybody has to just take personal responsibility and work for themselves. I mean, someone with Down syndrome who's alone because their parents died or something like that, they're going to, they need some help, like, period. Sure. So I do believe that. I do think it's blown out of proportion. I think there's tons of people taking advantage of the system. But anyway, this is all to say that, like, Jordan's point is, like, when either side is left unchecked by the other, things get bad. And so as much as, social justice warriors and all these people, like, drive me insane, I try to keep that in mind whenever I'm replying to people or something like that, because I'm like, look, this person's not evil. They have a set of beliefs that they have because they were brought up a certain way, and they think they're the good guy, just like I think I'm the good guy. Why can't we talk about why we both think we're the good guy and share our ideas, right?
That's right. So it's interesting you said that, based on, like, how you were brought up or whatever. It's very true, dude. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but, like, every person sees the world from a different lens. I mean, literally, it's like we're all wearing sunglasses and we all see from a completely different perspective. And it's all based on the things that we have experienced in our lives, the different trauma that we've gone through, the different, just whatever it is, right? Yeah. That causes us to see the world in a different way. And so you're exactly right when you say that when you meet these people and when you get into conversations with these people, you know how far questions go. Like, people are they're so ready to prove their point, and they're so ready to slam their point down someone's throat that they never stop and think, hey, what if we just ask questions to each other? What if we just try to figure out why it is that they feel the way they do? And it's like, I've had so many conversations with people who don't agree with 99% of what I believe, but we still get to a point after that conversation where it's like, you know what? I don't agree with a lot of what you said. You don't agree with a lot of what I said, but I can still respect you as a human being.
Absolutely.
And we can still be chill.
Yeah.
And dude, that's what I feel like we have lost. Again, it's another thing I always say, but, like, the country was founded on the ability to compromise. A bunch of dudes came together and said, look, we don't agree on everything, but one thing we do agree on is we don't want to be ruled. We want to be free.
Yeah.
But in order to make that happen, it's what you said. It's checks and balances. And now, that is what's kind of scary now, because, with everything going on, those checks and balances are looking a lot more like leaning one way. Know,
that's what I was about to say. It has kind of gone, pretty far left,
and that is scary. But, dude, this is what I'll say. You said, just a few seconds ago, you said that people aren't evil. They're just different. They just come from a different place, right?
For the most part.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm getting at. So in the beginning, you were talking about they. And I've actually, I just posted something on my story today about it. I did a podcast with my buddy Jimmy, and that was the topic. We were talking about they, like, who is they, right? Because everybody says they.
Yep.
And here's what I've come to, and I love
both sides say they.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would love to know what you think they is, but I'll tell you what I think it is.
Okay.
I genuinely believe that we are to a point where it is not just like left versus right anymore. I genuinely believe it's good versus evil. Mm-hmm. And the evil, like, you don't negotiate with the evil, and you don't bargain with the evil, and you don't try to work with the evil, because evil is evil, and it's evil for a reason. There's nothing that you can do or say that's going to change evil, in my opinion, like real evil, right? But the good is made up of both sides, if you want to consider sides. The good is made up of everyone, right? The problem is that right now I feel like the good is fighting the good and not paying attention to the evil.
That's exactly right.
And then also within that good, there's aware and there's unaware, right? And so that's a big reason why I got loud, is because it's like there are so many people out there that may not agree with everything that I have to say, but I know that a lot of it is just they're unaware. Mm-hmm. And you have people that always say, "Oh, you can't get to the left," and it's like, dude, that's bullcrap. Do you know how many people have messaged me and been like, "Hey, I am very, very liberal. Like, I don't believe a lot of things. I hate guns and blah, blah, blah." But they're like, "I had no idea about that or this or this." And it's like, you can make people aware of what's going on. And believe it or not, that awareness is what will unite us. That awareness is because when people realize that it's not us, we're not the enemies. We're not each other's enemies. We have an enemy, but it's not each other.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
When I think of they, dude, that to me is what they is. They is the evil that is driven by money and control and power. And they don't care about human, they don't care about us. They don't care about the well-being of any human. It's just them. They're looking out for them. And that to me is they.
If you had to put a finer point on that, though, on the evil they, where, do they exist? Like, is it certain institutions, or just more of like the nebulous, like, elites who have reached a certain point of power and that's all they care about, sort of thing? Or
yeah, so that's a great question. So I don't know if I've done a lot of like highlights and things on Pedo Wood and Pizzagate and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and like,
yeah,
I do believe that there are evil people that are definitely organized.
Yeah.
Now, do I believe in this like massive organization that's totally together on all these different fronts? Who knows? I mean, I don't know. I always say this, and that is secrets are kept in small circles. But what I will say, and this is another thing that I said on this podcast with my buddy Jimmy, is when you consider, unless a human being is just an absolute potato and they just have no ambition in life, which unfortunately there are people like that.
They exist.
The majority of people, the majority of humans, the natural instinct is to level up in some way or another. Whether that means that you're just, trying to make more money, or you're trying to get in better shape, or you're literally trying to fix your relationship, or you're trying to get a better car, or you want a better phone, or whatever, right? Like, every person, in my opinion, unless they're an absolute potato, is at least trying to level up in some way. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, when you take people that are very driven by leveling up, and they have all the money and all the power that they could possibly have in the world, what's left to level up from there?
Right.
It's control.
So you're saying like Jeff Bezos type people.
I mean, dude, I don't know the guy, but it's like, once you have that much money and that much power, and there's nothing left for you to want in the world, the only thing that I see left is like, how do I have more power over people? How do I have more control? Right?
Yeah.
Because that's the ultimate, power, dude, is control, right? Like, being able to control the outcome of whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what I mean? That's the only thing I can fathom. I don't know the answer to it, to be honest, but that's the only thing that I can fathom, where it's like, that makes sense to me.
And a guy like that, I mean, it's not like that. I mean, that is what you said, that is the pinnacle of that drive to achieve, right? And it's not like you get to a certain point, if you're a guy like that, and you just turn it off, right? Like,
no.
It's always, what's the next thing? I mean, he just shot a massive penis into space, right? Like, it's always what's the next thing, right? So,
well, dude, and that's a perfect example, though. It's like, okay, I don't have nearly as much money as Bezos does, but like in my mind, the more money I make, and I genuinely mean this. I know a lot of people say this, but I genuinely mean this. I try to live my life from a place of abundance, right? Like I will give my stuff out freely. I will help as many people as I possibly can. The more money and the more money I make and the more opportunity that I receive, I genuinely seek opportunities to give money away and to give opportunity to other people, because I know that the more I give, the more I'm going to receive. Like that's just a universal law. That's an unchangeable law, the law of the harvest, right? And so I just look at guys like Bezos and all these other freaking just absolute like moguls, and I'm like, you have enough money now. While it's not like, I know people are out there like, oh, they could solve world hunger, and I don't think that's realistic. That's not realistic, right? You can't do that. But with all the money that you have, you could be doing so much more than flying a penis to space. Like that's just my and I'm not necessarily criticizing because I don't know the guy, but in my mind, I'm like, I don't know, man. If you understood abundance versus scarcity, like I just feel like he'd be doing so much more than he does.
Right.
And maybe I'm just not hearing about it. I don't know.
That's possible, I think. But also, so first off, like I'm like, I hate even like trying to say like somebody should do this with their money, right? Like my opinion is like your money's your money.
Yeah,
you know
totally.
what I mean? But if we're just talking theoretically, like if I were him type thing, right? Like, I do think that there was a space program, right, that sort of fell off, and we've lost a lot of progress in that regard. And I more buy into Elon's messaging versus like Branson and Bezos. Elon, like he doesn't care about money. He doesn't at all.
No, dude.
Right?
No.
He
Elon's
like
trying
took
to change
everything.
The world, bro.
He's truly driven by that, and like took everything he made in PayPal, put it all in on a rocket. Like he's always just betting the house in the name of science and progress. And people love him, people hate him, whatever. And I think that that is a good use of his resources, because he's truly like, we need to be an interplanetary species, and we need to have electric cars and solar. And I mean, he's literally like trying to solve all the problems of the world, which is insane. And I don't even know if he's human, to be honest. But I think that, I don't know, man. I agree with you about Bezos and the people who are saying things like, oh, he could be solving world hunger with that, or curing cancer with that, or whatever. And it's like, I made a tweet earlier today. It was something like, people are all upset about these billionaires spending their own money to go to space, but they don't say anything about the government wasting trillions of their dollars on stupid causes and wasteful spending and all of this. And so I think there's other places you can direct your anger and concern about money being spent,
I don't disagree. I mean, for sure. And that's what I'm saying. There's a fine line, because again, I'm not, just like you said, I'm not saying that he should be spending his money on one thing or the other.
Right.
All I'm saying is, if you're asking me as far as like, if I were to pinpoint people who I think are, have tons of money and tons of power and are seeking control, I mean, those people are few. But dude, you look at what happened with the 4 or 5 months during all the lockdowns and everything, and it's like, it literally is the largest redistribution of wealth in like human history. Mm-hmm. Billions and billions and billions of dollars, dude. And to like four organizations that just absolutely cashed out while everyone else drowned. Right.
Yeah.
And so when I see that, I'm just like, it's hard for me to see, I don't know. It's hard for me to not consider that that's a possibility. Does that make sense? Not that it's the truth. I will never present a theory as fact. But I just gotta say, like, it's hard to not consider that it's a possibility.
Absolutely, man. I mean, the amount of wealth that a few of those guys accrued just over the last year, it's preposterous. Wild. It's insane. Wild. And the interesting thing with that is a lot of the people who are your lefty, like, wealth disparity and equity instead of equality type people, they're like on their side, they're like pro Bill Gates. They're like pro,
Right.
all these guys. And I'm like, you do realize that, and it's just like, I think I put this on Instagram or Twitter or somewhere, but it's like, all these like eat the rich people, Occupy Wall Street people are also saying like, trust the government, trust big pharma. It's like, what is going on? I don't understand how you're making this make sense.
Dude, I'll tell you, I think you were the one actually that I saw this post. I don't know if you were the one that posted first or if you just reposted or whatever, but didn't you post the picture of the chick in Starbucks with like a MacBook and her phone and she's drinking her latte and like it says "end kill capitalism" or something. I don't know, something like that, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that wasn't my picture, but so I had made a tweet like a year prior where I was like, somewhere out there's someone in Starbucks on their, iPhone doing this and took an Uber there, bought something off Amazon, and they're tweeting about how bad capitalism is. And then I saw this picture and I was like, oh, this is too good. So I like juxtaposed my tweet on top of that picture and put it out there. But it was like, yeah, those people are everywhere.
Well, and dude, you look at, I mean, here's the thing too. If you want to consider, I've talked about this a few times. I don't know if this country will ever get to this point. I don't think it ever will get to the point where it's, communist or anything like that. Like, I don't think we will ever actually fall to communism. I just don't think we will. I think we'll get damn close to it, which we're already trending for that. But I don't think we'll ever actually fall to it.
I think there's too much resistance from the people in this country.
Well, yeah, that being said, the things that lead to that, number one, it's demonizing capitalism. Because one of the first things that happens in a communist state is the capitalists bounce. They're gone. They're like, I'm not staying here.
True.
Right? It's seeking opportunity in another place. You look at Venezuela, you look at Cuba, you look at all these other countries. Anyone that was there that was more of a capitalist, they were gone, dude. That's it. The capitalists left and there's nothing left but the people who believed in socialism, basically. But the thing is, they don't realize it. Like, I feel like it's this idea of conditioned indifference, right? I've talked about this too, where these tyrants are so good at conditioning people to be completely indifferent to what's happening around them and to just kind of blindly and just, arrogantly trust and follow the government. And, have you ever read 1984 by George Orwell?
Yeah. Back in college. Right? It's been a little while, but.
Okay, so, bro, same with me, right? I hadn't read it for a really long time, and then a couple weeks back, I dove in again, and it's crazy, man. Like, if there was ever a time, and I don't believe in this, but if there was ever a time that I believe in time travel, it would be believing that George saw 2020.
Saw this, yeah.
Because everything he talks about as far as the big brother, the government and the media controlling not only everything that people say but everything people think, and slowly basically turning people into these like zombies that just constantly consume the media and just become actual puppets of thought. Dude, it even says in one part of it that a successful, how you can know if you've successfully if you successfully control someone's mind is if you can get them to say 2 + 2 = 5, right? When I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, didn't we just have something happen where like they were saying math was racist or like 2 + 2 doesn't actually equal 4 or whatever? And I'm just like, dude.
Well, yeah. And Bill Gates actually is behind a program that is supposed to be dispelling or what is it, eliminating white supremacy from math. And part of that is, and I think this is inherently racist, but part of that is saying you don't have to find the right answer. Like that's a white thing.
Yes.
No,
it's
finding
racist.
the right answer. But that's Bill Gates, going back to Bill Gates, a guy whose entire successful life and career was predicated on finding the right answer. Right.
Yes.
But now so that's this fishy thing, right? Where it's kind of like, and I think I was talking to actually another Ian Smith, who has Tillis Gym, up in Belmar. I had him on the show a while back, and he was talking about that. He was like, you'll look and you'll see guys like he might have even given the example of Bill Gates, right? And he's like, everything that worked for them to make them massively successful as billionaires, they're essentially advocating that the people do the opposite, right? And,
of course.
And it's like, well, hold on a second. Why, so that gets you thinking like
yes.
that they versus us thing again, right?
That's why I was saying, again, like, I don't know the guy. I don't know any of these guys, but that's why I'm saying it's not hard for me to consider that they are the quote unquote evil that are seeking control, because what you're talking about there, right? When someone has reached success and then they do whatever they can to make it so that others can't reach that same level of success, that is the definition of the mindset of the scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
And when people work from a mindset of scarcity, it's the idea that there's not enough to go around. Mm-hmm. And when you start thinking that way, that is dangerous, dude. When you start thinking that there's not enough to go around, what that ends up being is, I'm going to get mine and I'm going to make sure nobody else can get anything else. And that is the ultimate idea of control. So that's why I say that it's really hard for me to not consider that guys like that are the evil that are trying to control every aspect of our lives and try to make it so that we can't possibly get to a point where we are able to stand up to them.
Yeah.
It kind of, again, it's just the dots connect, right? But dude, going back to the 1984 thing, there's a point in that book where it talks about how two of the things that they would do is redefine words, right?
Yeah.
And then control people's minds to the point where they don't feel like they can use certain words or communicate in certain ways. So let me give you two things that'll freaking scare the crap out of anybody that's listening to this right now. Not that that's my point, but
you can cuss.
The first thing is words being redefined. Okay. Think about what's going on right now. Think about the different words that are literally being redefined as we speak. Number one, you nailed it. Racism. Mm-hmm. What does racism even mean anymore? Right? What is that going to mean 10 years from now? With how much crap is going on right now and what people are considering racist and not racist or whatever that is, like 10 years from now, what is racism or what is racist actually going to mean? Is it going to mean you're white? Is it going to mean you're Christian? Is it going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you consider even just the word patriot, like that literally came out in the news the other day that patriot is now hate speech according to certain people in the media, right? And if you look up synonyms of patriot, you find, I was blown away, dude. You find nationalist, you find flag waver, you find, I forget what the other ones were. But basically they're the opposite of what a patriot actually is, right? A patriot and a nationalist are two totally different things, literally the opposite of each other, right? It's the extreme version of it. The other one was I think it was a colonialist or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's one.
Basically, somebody who's loyal to the crown. And I'm like, dude, a patriot is the opposite of being loyal to the crown or the government. Like, are you freaking kidding me? Yeah. But that's a synonym in the dictionary now. That's so wild. You know, it's like you were talking about Jordan Peterson. He did an episode with Yami Park, the North Korean defector. Good. Did you listen to that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Bro, she talked about how the words love and family and loyalty have all been redefined over the last like 20 years to mean only love and loyalty to the Kims. Mm-hmm. That's all those people know now because their literal words have been completely redefined and they don't even know what it used to be.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, right? Redefining the words. The second thing is making people believe that they can't use certain words or certain speech or Big Brother will be after them, right? So here's the scary thing, dude. And I've told a few people this, but this was probably about a month ago. You know how bad we are censored on social media, right? Like we can't even type out certain words unless we use asterisks or unless we like spell them all different ways and use numbers and all kinds of crap, right?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, dude. So I have a journal that I write to my little boy, right? I write him about his life. I write about what's going on in his life, what's going on in the world, what's going on with our family, just kind of like my way of journaling, but also like keeping him up to date that I'm going to give him when he's older. Okay.
Wow. Dude, I love that. I love
it's
that.
Probably,
how old
dude,
is
it's probably the best thing I've ever done, honestly.
What? How old is your son?
He's 2.
Dude, my daughter's 4. I might start that like immediately. I love that idea.
It's amazing, man. It's amazing. It's probably the best thing that I've done like probably one of the best things I've ever done in my life, honestly.
Wow. And it's good for you too. Like mentally, I'm sure it's good for you. And then he's going to get this treasure trove of dad's thoughts. Like, dude, that is amazing. Yeah.
Yep.
God,
yep. I would highly suggest you do it.
For sure.
So anyway, this was probably about, I think it was like 2 months ago now. I'm writing in the journal to my boy, and I'm writing about COVID. Okay. With a pen and piece of paper, I'm writing about COVID. And I almost censored myself, Dave. I'm writing to my little boy on a piece of paper, and in my mind, as I was writing the word COVID, I was like, wait a second, I got to use a 0, a V, and an exclamation point. And I literally wrote it out on a piece of paper, dude. I wrote out COVID in code because in my mind, I'm like, wait a second, I can't do that. I can't use that. And that was a huge wake up call for me, dude. Cause I was like, okay, if I am actually censoring myself now without Big Brother having any idea what I'm doing, that is the definition of what Orwell is talking about.
Yeah. How effective it has been, even on someone like you, who's
very strong mentally, right?
Yeah. Wow.
And that to me was scary as hell, man. And I think that took things up a level for me big time. Yeah. Like, that's scary, man. And I ended up writing my boy like an entire page on that. And I don't know what it'll be, but maybe one day he's going to look back on this and be like, who knows where our country's going to be 15, 20 years from now. And so anyway, I really hope people can understand though. And this is kind of what you and I talked about, was the only way that we make it out of this, and the only way that we can actually stand up to this stuff and to the evil is, and I know it sounds so cliche and so fairy tale, but it's the truth. It's if we can actually come together, and it's we the people, not we the right, not we the left, not we the black, not we the white, not we the gay, like straight, whatever. It's got to be we the people who are pissed off and are sick and tired and are just, that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And even doing that, like, because I made a post on 4th of July where I held up a sign and I wrote like all those identifiers on a sign, gay, straight, white, black, whatever. And I X'd them all out, Democrat, Republican. And then I wrote American and I circled that. Yep. And I got so much hate for that. So that actually, of all places, that went viral on LinkedIn, which like I don't even use for those posts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A guy from Black Rifle Coffee posted it and it went viral. And there was so much hate below there, just like directed at me again, kind of like we talked about before, like for being a white guy, and it's like, I'm putting out the most unifying possible message saying like, we're all in this together. Let's come together. And I mean, I had to stop reading the comments. Like I've gotten more and more like that. Like because if I start to see like tons of vitriol, I'm like that, I don't need that mentally. But dude, it was just so depressing to see people taking such a unifying message and they're so filled with hate and they've been so conditioned. And before I forget, I wanted to touch on, you mentioned Yeonmi Park, and I don't know if it was in the Peterson interview or not, but because I've consumed a lot of her content, it started with Jordan and then I was just reading everything I could on her. Yep. And as far as like being conditioned and your point about going to write COVID with a pen in that codified way, how quickly it can happen. She described how conditioned she was when she left North Korea and she got out, right? And she almost went back because the freedom was so terrifying to her. She was so used to being provided, even though you're really not provided shit, right? But being provided everything, that she almost turned around, dude. Yeah, and went back to North Korea. And that is how programmed we can get. And true freedom is terrifying to a lot of people. So they would like to say, hey, give me my unified basic, universal basic income. Give me this, give me that. Take care of me, daddy. And it's like, dude, I'm telling you, you don't want that, you know?
No. And that's, I mean, dude, that's the thing. Like sorry, I was looking something up because that's another thing that 1984 talks about. Is it says, I'm going to read it really quick. Is that okay?
Of course, yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't not paying attention. I was trying to find this. Brother. So it says, so in the book it talks about how the media and Big Brother effectively get people to believe that war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. And that's exactly what you're talking about, dude. That's Yami Park. That's exactly what you're talking about. 100%. To her, freedom was almost slavery because she no longer it was completely distorted for her. And to believe that ignorance is like safety, right? Being ignorant is like, okay, I'm good. But dude, what's scary about that is that there are so many people in this country right now who would rather remain ignorant than aware, simply because it's safe.
Yeah.
Simply because it's that safe place of living, right? Not having to cross that line of understanding that, hey, things may not be how I think they are, and they may be really bad, and there may be a whole lot of evil in this world. People want to exist in this world of bliss and ignorance. Mm-hmm. And I know so many people like that, dude. Those are the people where you try to have these conversations and they know that you're right, but they just don't want to worry about it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to worry about it. They don't even want to focus on it. They just want to live their lives and believe that everything's okay. And, that's why I think the masks and the lockdown and all that kind of stuff really took hold of a lot of people, not necessarily because there's so much followers, but just because they would rather not fight.
Yeah.
They would rather just go along with it, right?
And people have lives to live.
Exactly.
They're working, man. They got other things. Not everybody gets as into it and is so driven to find out the truth of these matters. And they're just like, okay, I got to put this mask on. Fine. I need to go to work. I need to pay my bills. Oh, I got to take this shot now to go to work. Well, I got to put food on the table. They can't be concerned with it. And if they do take that moment to educate themselves, what do? They pop on CNN, right? Or they pop on, one of these mainstream networks, and they're being told a very, very specific message that's essentially propaganda at this point. I mean,
it's manufactured.
It's all manufactured. And so then it just perpetuates itself, right? You talked about earlier how, you've talked to a lot of people on the left and it's more about they're just not as aware,
Yes.
And I wanted to touch on a point about that really quick because I do as well. And in this past couple years, there's that term getting red pilled, essentially, right? And I talked to so many people on this one specific topic who, if you ask any average person, working person, American in the population who's not looking at all these different news sources and really digging in, is Donald Trump a racist? Yeah, of course he's a racist, right? And I've had so many of these conversations with people who said that, and I'm like, okay, well, tell me how you know. Well, right. He said mighty fine people. And I'm like, okay, let's pull that up really quick. Oh, they didn't include that part where he denounced white supremacy and neo-Nazis and all that.
Mexico.
Exactly. Yep. Mexico, same thing. They're not sending their best. They're blah, blah, blah. It's like each time you can systematically break down all of these statements, right? And it was all misconstrued by these news outlets, right? Because they wanted to send a specific message. And going back to our original, earlier, they knew that's what was going to get the clicks, what was going to get the views, what was going to create the income. I posted a video earlier today to my Instagram. It was from Crystal and Sagar on Breaking Points. It's a YouTube channel. They do a great job. He's a Republican. She's a Democrat. Or, he's a conservative. She's a liberal.
I'll have to check that out.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. They're very objective. They disagree on all kinds of stuff, but they're civil. Good. And then she is very open-minded, and so is he. So like today, they were talking about the exchange between Rand Paul and Fauci, where Rand calls him out on funding gain-of-function research in the Wuhan lab. And, she being the person on the left, she was like, yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous. It's clear that Fauci was funding gain-of-function research. And it's such a breath of fresh air to see people just say, look, we're gonna hold truth to power no matter what. And if we can unite under that, like just calling out and shining a light on the corruption, and no matter what side it is, we can get somewhere. And so shows like that give me hope. But dude, CNN and all that shit is so bad. Even Fox sometimes.
Well, dude, and believe me, I hate CNN and I'm not advocating for it right now at all. But I will say, for the first time in my life, I saw today that CNN fact-checked Biden.
Oh, dude, I shared that on my story. I was blown away.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Bro, when I saw that, I was like, oh, wow, okay. Good. That's good. I still hate you, but okay.
Did you read the comments? Did you look at the comments?
That's, what's that?
The comments on that post. Did you read any of them?
Oh, no, I didn't read them. No.
So many people, like lefties, going off on CNN, just absolutely so mad that Biden got fact checked on one thing. Just like even saying stuff like that may be true, but it's dangerous for you to say that he was wrong because that creates vaccine skepticism or whatever. And it's like, oh, so you'd rather the people be lied to? Do you realize what you're saying?
See, and that's another thing too. Like, when you consider the right and the left, right? This is just my opinion. This isn't fact or anything. It's just Ian Wendt's opinion. But like, when I consider the right and the left, I think the left's greatest weakness is the fact that they are so emotionally charged, right? I think that's safe to say that the left is extremely emotionally charged, which is why it's all about social issues rather than like the actual issues that are happening for the majority of the time, right? But then the right, I think, it's my opinion that the right's greatest weakness is that they always have to be right. Like the right literally has to be right.
Yeah.
And it's usually based more on logic rather than emotion. Like the right isn't emotional enough. That's why when the right and the left get together, the right can't freaking communicate with the left because they're not willing to listen. They're not willing to just shut up and listen and have a little bit of emotion in the conversation, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, the two things fight. But dude, if you consider the whole CNN thing, right? That's why, to me, it's mind-blowing where people on the left are totally okay with the censorship stuff of the right, right? It's easy for them to be okay with it because it's not happening to them. But imagine for a second if the left were the ones that were being censored.
Oh my God.
With how much emotion is built up on that side, dude. It's like you said, it would be a bomb. A bomb would absolutely go off. But right now, it's easy for them not to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not censored. Nothing is happening that's treading on their rights and their freedom. And so to them, it's like, oh, all these right are just a bunch of freedom fighters, and it's Nazis and blah blah blah, and they care more about freedom than life. But it's like, okay, but reverse those roles. And let's see how it goes. Yeah. Let's see how you guys feel about not being able to communicate, not being able to express your freedom of speech. And it's like, if only that would happen, right? The tables would be completely turned. And that CNN post and what you just said about the left going off about it is a perfect example of how the left would react if it was happening to them.
Yep. That's right. I was about to say that if you didn't. I was like, we got a perfect microcosm of that today. And dude, I mean, look, I am not a fan of CNN, but when I saw that, like I was asking myself, like, what was going on behind closed doors at CNN that post got out? That was insane. And for those who don't know what we're talking about, CNN made a post on their Instagram today. I imagine they probably put it out on their Twitter and other outlets, but I didn't check. And it was fact checking President Biden from his town hall, which was a CNN town hall. So that might have been why they felt the responsibility, because he made a very bold statement. He said, if you're vaccinated, you won't get COVID, which is completely false. And then he said, you won't be hospitalized. You won't die. Like, he didn't say you're less likely to, he said you won't. And that is obviously
absolutes.
Yeah, he was speaking in absolutes. And I think that maybe they were like, oh shit, there's no way we can't not say something about this.
We can't let this slip. Yeah. It's almost to the point where it's just like, this is one of those times where we literally cannot let this go.
Yeah.
Because
they could be facing legal. Yeah, for sure. But it was wild to see, man. I couldn't believe my eyes. I think a lot of us were just like, what?
No, when I saw it, I thought it was fake. When I saw it, I was like, someone on the right put this together, or whatever. And I was like, but no, it was real. I was like, whoa. Yeah. I was blown away, honestly. That was I was blown away when I actually saw that it was real. And and part of me was like, okay, cool. Like, you get 1 gold star out of like 150 black spots, right?
But here's the thing with that though, because I gave CNN props immediately. I gave them props for that. And But if you flip the script and Fox News or whoever had made a post, let's say, I don't know, in support of something Biden did, you wouldn't see people on the left being like,
No.
way to go, Fox. You know, it's like, I will call it like it is. Like if MSNBC or CNN or whoever is objective and then I will say good job. Like and if I agree with someone on the left on an issue, I will tell them that. And if I see something I don't like on the right, like for example, I need to dive more into this. I was just reading about it a little while ago, but apparently the Texas State Senate removed the requirement in their curriculum to teach about MLK and several other civil rights heroes. Now, I dove into that a little more, and it looks like what they're doing is they're replacing specific language, saying you have to learn about these particular people, with a broad statement saying that we don't accept any divisiveness based along the lines of race, and we have to teach about racial equality. So it was like more of a general statement.
Part of the critical race theory stuff.
Right. And it was all about making sure we don't have critical race theory in the curriculum, but also making sure we teach about, the things of the past that have happened. And I think in that process, they removed specific language that said, like, you have to teach about MLK. And of course, people are infuriated by that. And, I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt. But once I dig into it a little bit more and I find out that it's literally been this, because of course, when people read that, they're immediately like, oh, it's just people being racist and trying to push white supremacy. And I don't think that's the case, but I think it may have been a mistake, right? And I'll call them out for that, But
anyway, that's my point though. I think you're seeing that more and more because, again, man, kind of going back to what we were saying in the beginning, nothing is going to happen unless it ends up being, all of us, unless it ends up being we the people that are sick and tired of this, and we're. It's not just the right the conservative business owners that are standing up and saying enough is enough. It's the conservative and the it's everyone, right?
Right.
And the tough thing is you see these people on each side that are starting to call out the hypocrisy and are starting to stand up and are starting to say, well, wait a second, this doesn't actually this doesn't add up, right? It's tough though, because I said this on a live last night that I did with Jordan Sormo and Ross and Lillette, but I actually think that in order for us to get to the point where we the people, something crazy has to happen, man. Like, I hate to say that, but because it's awful, but it's the truth. I don't feel like we've ever really had to fight for anything as a society. No. Like, we haven't really experienced a war. We really haven't had to fight for anything. And even now we complain a lot about everything that's going on, but dude, I'm still sitting in an office that I own. I still have, air conditioning, and I'm still running a business successfully, and I'm still healthy, and I still have food to put on the table, and I'm not being told who I can worship. And you know what I mean? Like, I still live in the greatest country in the world, and I still lead a very free life. And so, I'm not like suffering like a lot of these other people around the world. And I feel like because our society, our country doesn't actually know what that means, like what it means to have to fight for freedom or fight for livelihood, until something happens that puts us in that position, that's what I think will take to actually unite us. It's like 9/11, dude. When 9/11 happened, I feel like that was the one time in this country for a very long time where it was like, there are no sides. There is no right or wrong. It's just America. Yeah. It's just the American people who have been attacked, and it's time for us to stand together, right? Mm-hmm. I always say that I wish we could get back to how everybody was after 9/11, because that to me was like the one time that I feel like our country was truly united.
Yeah, there was never a time where I saw more American flag bumper stickers and stuff, support our troops stickers, like everything, man. It was truly, people were united in that moment. And when you were saying all of that, I was just thinking to myself, like, we need like an alien invasion. Could you imagine if all of a sudden, like, the aliens come? Dude. It has to be like Independence Day. Like, we all got to come together, man.
For real though. I mean, seriously, like, we need a common enemy. I hate to say it. We need a common, I was literally just going to say those words. We need a common enemy. We need a common enemy that everybody can say again, because that's what this country was founded on. This country was founded because there was a common enemy. The reason we have the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is because there was a common enemy. And no matter what we disagreed on, no matter what those men disagreed on, and no matter what they didn't like about whatever it was, they knew that they had to compromise for the good of the people to get to get away from that common enemy and to defeat that common enemy. And we have forgotten that because we don't have that anymore.
Well,
right?
we should.
We are each other's enemy.
Right. But we should. And I think that's the big problem is like, you think back to like the Reagan era, the Red Scare, and when, you know, we were united because of the Russians, right? I mean, it should be that with China right now. I mean, it should be. You know, it's like the things that they're doing. Like the thing that truly drives me crazy with that is if people would be intellectually honest, right, and objectively evaluate the situation, right? You have this oppressive regime. That, by the way, the population of China is 1.3 billion people, which always, you know, it was always crazy to me that they've got 1 billion people. But I stopped to think about that number recently, and I'm like, not only do they have 1 billion people, they have 1.3. So that means they have 1 billion more people than us, right? Because they have 1,300,000,000. And they're literally 1 billion more people than the US. Not just 1 billion people, but 1 billion more than us, dude. How insane is that? Like, such a huge population. And they have actual concentration camps where they're sterilizing Uyghur Muslims. You know, they're forcing them into slave labor, all these things. And so we have these social justice warriors who want to speak out against human rights violations and oppression.
They pick and choose.
Right. But they're pro-China essentially in many ways and won't speak out against China. You know, it baffles me.
Yeah. Well, again, I think that comes down to everybody wants to complain about something. Everybody wants to have something that they can, you know, that they can fall back on. Because again, I have always said this. I think one of the biggest issues that we have as a country and as a nation and as a society in general is the lack of accountability. And just how much people are so willing to blame others or blame other situations and blame their circumstances or whatever. Like I feel like very few people are willing to actually say, you know what, I am where I am and things are the way they are because of me.
Because of me. Yeah.
You know, whether it's good or bad, I effed up and that's why this happened, or I did awesome and I freaking crushed it and that's why this is this way, right? People want to be able to say that their circumstances are determined by others and by outside forces. And that is so far outside of my personal mindset, because I'm like, why would you want to feel like you're controlled? But again, that goes back to why it's so easy for these people to be manipulated.
Yeah. When
you have no sense of accountability, it is so much easier for someone to say, to control your mind and to control what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary too, is because you look at the people who do hold themselves accountable. You look at the people that are mentally and physically and emotionally strong. And who are those people? Those are people like Ian Smith. Those are people like all these other guys that are literally being demonized and are being like made out to be enemies. And you know what I mean? They're being made out to be dangerous. They're being attacked. And it's like, okay, again, that goes back to, that's why it's not hard for me to see what's going on and to believe that there's a greater agenda. Because if I want to weaken a society, I'm going to take away accountability. And anybody that does still understand accountability, that's a dangerous, dangerous mindset because it's strong, right? Those are the guys that are standing in a line going to a concentration camp that are going to jump out and try to take down one guard so that 50 people can run away, right?
Exactly.
We got to get rid of them. We got to get rid of those guys. So now you have the toxic masculinity thing, right? It makes sense why it's being attacked. That is the strong aspect of our people, of humanity, right? Toxic masculinity is necessary for families to survive, right? You kill the masculinity aspect of a family, and we know what happens.
Yep.
right?
Yep. It's very clear.
So
Yep.
it's so coordinated, man. You could go on for hours about this, but all the different things that are so, controlled. And you look at the last 2 years and you look at how perfectly they have lined these dominoes up to fall. And I just don't understand how anybody can't look at it and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Other than the fact that they might they just want to live in, ignorance, and they don't want to believe that it's the truth. They don't want to believe that the dominoes are actually falling until it freaking hits them in the face. Right.
100%. I agree. I had, I think it was, who was it? Aubrey Huff had on the podcast. He has, Alpha American Apparel, World Series champ, outspoken on the masculinity topic. And of course I've had Ian, and I had my friend Andy Lewis, who owns Norse Fitness, on talking about this topic. And I had Aubrey and him back to back, and I hadn't released the Aubrey episode yet. And I was talking to Andy about this, and he and Aubrey gave the exact same answers on this. I was like, why do you guys think there's an attack on masculinity? And they were like, oh, well, that's how you weaken a society. You take out the strong men, the strong-willed people, you defund the police, you eliminate free thought, and then you have a completely controllable society. And both of them gave that answer back to back, not knowing that the other one. And I'm like, man, okay, you guys are onto something here, And now you're saying the same thing. I'd be
willing to bet that if you asked 50 men that are like us, right?
Yep.
I mean, those guys are beasts, but I consider myself walking among giants with those guys. But like, if you ask men like that, 50 of them, I guarantee you the answer is going to be the same or very similar, because I feel like there's one thing they left out though. All of those things, taking away masculinity, taking away accountability, attacking the family, right? Creating enough fear, all of those things. But there's one more thing. Those things
taking away our guns is the other one that they said.
What was it?
The other one they said was taking away our guns, our ability to defend ourselves.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But there's one more piece left, right? Fear leads to control. And then once you have a controlled society, I guess I would put it the other way. Fear leads to dependency, and dependency leads to control, right? If you can make a people completely dependent, you're able to control every aspect of their life. And that is what has happened in all these other places where socialism and communism has taken over. They attack the people in the places that they knew were the strongest. Once those were gone, they were able to control them perfectly, or they were able to make them dependent on the government for money or food or whatever it was. And then once that's there, dude, people that are starving and have nowhere else to go but the government, that's it, right? So now you have our administration putting out checks. Like, I don't know if you heard that, but they're $300 checks for
kids,
families that have kids or whatever, right?
Yeah. I saw that.
And who knows how many stimulus checks. And dude, that's another thing too. You talk about the hypocrisy on both sides. This was one thing that absolutely drove me nuts when the right and all the conservative like influencers and everything were calling out Biden about not sending out the stimulus checks. Like, oh, he said he was going to, and now he's not. It's like, you guys are idiots. You don't get it. We don't want the government's money.
Right.
By you trying to make Biden look like an idiot for not sending out the stimulus checks, you're literally making the right feel like he should be. And we don't want government money.
Government money is our money, right? Like
exactly.
The government has no money without taking it from us. But
that's right.
I don't want the money I've paid in taxes being redistributed to make some other person be de-incentivized to work for themselves, And I noticed that too. And I had a few conversations about that when it was happening. I'm like, what is up with all these people saying, where's the stimulus? Where's the stimulus? Who are supposedly on the right,
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but like, if you're like, well, it's my money anyway, he might as well give it back to me. I'm like, you can't make exceptions like that. I mean, in my opinion, I think it's ideologically, in opposition to everything I stand for, and I was the same. I felt the same way when all that happened. But
again, this goes back to why I consider myself more of like a constitutionalist, I guess, than anything else, is because I believe, again, I'm right leaning, but at the same time, like the last thing that I want is the government to be freaking in my business and in my life to the point where I feel like they're they're getting dangerously close to making our people dependent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because again, the dependency leads to control.
Mm-hmm.
And, so again, you just look at this COVID stuff and all the fear that's been sown into people's, I mean, dude, it's gotten to the point where people are so afraid that they'll wear 3 masks and a face shield and walk around with a freaking like giant plastic bag over them. I mean, dude, it's crazy.
And that's after they've had both shots.
Yeah. After they've been vaccinated.
Yeah.
Oh, and then they'll get mad at people. Yeah, dude, it's wild, man. I was talking to my mom the other night about this too, actually, with just the fact that like it seems like all logic has gone out the window. And dude, I failed so many classes. Like I literally barely made it through school. Like I was an idiot, dude. The ability to actually focus in school for me was trash. And I'm looking around at these people and I'm like, okay, I feel like I was not that smart of a person in school, but like I know that if I go hiking in the middle of the woods with no one around me, I don't need to wear a mask. Like I failed almost every science class I ever took, but I know that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
it's wild. It truly is. I mean, look, we could go on and on about this stuff forever, I feel like, but I think at the end of the day, like you said, the solution is unity, and people on both sides don't like to hear that, but it's just got to happen. It's why people always ask me like, why don't you have people on your podcast from the far left? And I'm like, look, I'd love it if they'd come on. I've invited people. They don't want to, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But like, I'll talk to anybody. So like, if anybody's listening, which again, I doubt anybody on the far left is listening to this podcast, but if you are and you want to come on and talk about something, please reach out. Like, but I think that, you're the same way. You'll talk to anybody about this stuff.
Oh, for sure. But it's the same thing, dude. I've invited probably 10 different people that are on the left that I know that, we have a mutual respect for each other. And I've told them, I'm like, dude, get on a live with me and let's go back and forth. Let's talk about it. I'm not going to attack you. I'm not going to make it a fight, but like, let's have this conversation. Right. Yeah. They just don't want to.
Right.
And, I got to respect that too, but like, it's unfortunate because I just feel like we could, I think people would be very surprised if they would have that conversation with me to see what I actually do agree with them on and where we actually stand.
Yeah.
Because we're not all that different than as people think we are. We're really not, but yeah, man, it's like you said, it sounds, people don't want to hear it. And it also just sounds like this like fairy tale storybook thing. But I truly, truly believe that the only way that we make it out of this thing is by figuring out a way to come together. And whether that's because we have a common enemy or because we actually figure out how to communicate with each other and we just freaking realize that the media is the enemy, that's ultimately what's going to happen. That's what we need. And I don't know how to make it happen, dude. I'm trying my hardest. Like, that's why I started this whole thing. It really is like I'm not trying to put a plug in here at all.
No, but I want to talk about that though. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, I really genuinely don't want this to be a plug, but it's the truth. Like I've basically gone all in on this Patriot gear brand. So, probably back in, I don't know, probably 2 years. I mean, literally 2 years, like right when the riots were happening. When were the riots happening? When did the BLM riots start happening? When was that?
They started originally in 2016 with Ferguson, but then they started again, I think, right at the end of 2018, maybe early 2019. I want to say something like that.
That long ago?
It's been a while because there were riots pre-COVID.
When were the one specifically where like bricks were getting laid down in freaking town halls and stuff?
Yeah,
that was like the end of 2019, I want to say, right?
End of 2019, early 2020. Yeah. I mean, they went all through 2020, man. It was perpetual. Yeah.
So, dude, I said this on the video that I made, but I've always been somebody who has been very pro-America. I've always been somebody who's been very respectful towards our service. And I'm not a vet, just so everybody knows. I get asked that all the time. I'm not a vet. I'm just a normal guy. I'm just a normal dude that loves America and is grateful for the freedom that, and the lifestyle that I have, because I've seen the other side of the tracks. That's one thing that people don't know. I served a religious mission in Nicaragua. in 2006 to 2008. And I know what it's like to live in a country where your freedom is not actually freedom, and where you don't have the things in life that, I mean, carpet or clean water or electricity for longer than 6 hours a day. Wow. Okay. I know what it's like to live in a place where people are constantly just trying to find a way to get away. And so having that experience has given me that perspective of being so grateful for what I have as an American. And so I've always been that way, right? But it's never been something that I've been loud about. It's just always been like, you know, when the holidays would come up, I'd be very loud about it on like a 4th of July or, you know, whatever, Memorial Day, right? But then it was it. But dude, you know, I had a successful career as a salesman and a marketer for a direct sales company and then a medical company for over 10 years. And when all the riots and all that kind of stuff started happening, it got to a point where I just could not stay silent. I couldn't, like, it was not, it literally, like, it wasn't in me to be able to stay silent anymore. Not only for me, but for my boy. And because to me, I was like, you know, what am I teaching my boy, and what kind of example am I setting if I'm just going to shut up and not say anything when I know that I should be saying something, right? And so anyway, I started getting loud about stuff. I started trying my best to get people to realize what was really going on, and to turn off the news, and to see the bricks being laid, and to see how divisive the media was, and to see that, you know, all this stuff about racism is being touted. But the truth is, you have an entire crowd of police officers that are kneeling with these people and saying, hey, we're with you. We love you. And there's far more love than hate. Right. So it started with that. And I had built up a pretty successful following before that, just through my sales and marketing career. I spoke a lot of conferences and things like that. And I trained and coached. And I literally thought I was burning everything to the ground, dude. I was like, there's like, everyone's gone. Like, this is it. They're all going to think I'm a freaking tinfoil hat crazy man, right? But it was the exact opposite. When I started getting loud, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people all of a sudden are coming out of nowhere saying, I had no idea that this was going on. And thank you so much for using your platform to show this. And dude, it just continued to grow. And I started doing highlights on, you know, the different conspiracy theories, Pedo Wood and Pizzagate and freaking Mockingbird and MK Ultra and all this other stuff that people think is fake, and it's actually very real. And I did my best to, once again, try to get the people that are still on the good side but are just unaware to become aware of what's going on, because that's what unites us, right? And as that continued to grow, I realized that people on the left, especially, or just people in general, even on the right, they wanted to be loud about how they felt about America and freedom, and you know, they wanted to express their feelings, but they were afraid to do it vocally, or they're afraid to do it on social media or whatever. So I had this crazy idea one day. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a t-shirt. I was like, I'm going to make a t-shirt, and it would be dope if like 50 people wore this, right? And I just put Patriot on the t-shirt. That was it. Because for me, being a patriot, you're not black, you're not white, you're not gay, you're not straight, you're not right, you're not left. I have so many friends that I don't agree with hardly anything they say. And I know a lot of people that are in the service right now that are not Republican or conservative and are very liberal. But guess what? They're laying their lives on the line every day for your freedom.
Yep.
Even though they may not agree with everything you believe, right? That's a patriot. You love your country. You love the people there. You want it to be in the best position possible, and you're willing to defend it. That's a patriot. That's it. There's no other. It's all the definitions out there that anybody can give you, in my opinion, are garbage. And so I was like, I want to redefine this. And not only do I want to redefine this, but I want to give people the ability to show what they wish they could say, right? To give them kind of a way to express themselves. And I was like, what better way than just putting a freaking t-shirt on as many people as I can that believe this too, right? And at the time I was like, it'd be cool if 50 people wore this. So we created the green Patriot tee, not even the black one. The black one came after, but we created the green one. And dude, we sold a few hundred in like 2 days. And I was blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, this awesome. Is crazy. Like,
and you were just selling on social media?
Yeah, I was just, that's it, just through my Instagram. And I just built an Etsy shop. And then people were like, hey, make a hat. So I made a green Patriot hat, and they were like, make a beanie, because it was during the winter. I was like, all right, I'll make a beanie. So my buddy who owns a fulfillment company and I just kind of got together and started making these things, and it just started taking off, dude. And then probably like 2 months into it, I had an Etsy shop, and the Etsy shop got shut down. Randomly one night, they shut it down for hate speech and dangerous violent organizations. And all I was selling at the time, was a t-shirt, a green t-shirt that said Patriot with a flag on the arm, a green hat that said Patriot, and a beanie with a flag. That was it. And you have all these other things on Etsy with BLM and freaking, F Trump and like all this actual hate speech, right? Anyway, so dude, at the time I was kind of like, all right, well, I guess that's it. Like that was fun, that sucks, but that's it. And I was ready to throw in the towel because, dude, again, I still had a career. Like I still had a full-time job as a marketer, right? I was running a marketing company or a marketing team. And then I posted that, and every one of my followers were like, no, put up another shop, use Shopify. And I was like, okay. So that night I had a friend reach out to me and they helped me set up a Shopify. And dude, we did like $27,000 in revenue in like 3 days after that.
That's
like everybody just bought everything. And that's when I realized that this was like way bigger than just a clothing brand. Like this was a movement. This was something that people wanted to embrace because it was a way for them to express their frustration and their anger and their discontent with all of the crap that they were seeing, just like I was. And so then I created Patriot Friday, and I was like, I want to make these people feel like they have a platform to show it on. And so all of a sudden now people are tagging themselves and tagging me and wearing their gear, and every Friday they post all their stuff. And dude, it just took off. And fast forward now, I don't even know how long, in 10 months, 11 months since we started it. And we're about to cross our 10,000th order, dude. And it's like, it's amazing because what that tells me is that, most people are buying more than one thing because they're buying it for people they know, friends, family, whatever. That means that tens of thousands of people now around the country, and I promise you, it's not just right. It's all walks of life. I have a lot of friends that are on the left that are wearing Patriot gear because, again, my biggest message is patriotism is not partisan. And to know that I have tens of thousands of people that are wearing this word, just one simple word, proudly on their chest or on their hat or whatever, is incredible. So everybody that comes at me and says, oh, you think you're going to change the world with a t-shirt? It's like, yeah, I actually do. I actually do believe that this can unite people. And it's amazing, dude. Like it's, and I feel like it's honestly been something that has, I feel like now it was something that I was kind of called to. I know that sounds like crazy, but I feel like I feel like it was something that I was actually called to. And it keeps growing, and now we're doing events and we're getting out in front of people, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And it's awesome to see because it's not about the clothing. It's about the people, dude. It's about that passion for people wearing that. And then also just, before that we resurrected small businesses during the lockdowns, businesses that were going to close down. We'd post GoFundMe's and raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for them and save them. And when people are wearing that, that's what they're wearing. Right.
Yeah.
And, I talked about this on one other podcast, but one of the businesses we saved was a guy named Joe, a black man in Utah. Right. And what was so interesting to me, dude, is when we saved this guy's business, guess what question was never asked? Not once.
What?
What does this guy believe? What color is he? Is he Democrat? Is he Republican? Does he believe is he part of BLM? Does he wear a mask? Does he believe in vax? None of those questions were asked because the only thing that mattered was what? We have a common enemy.
Yep.
Right? The government and whoever it is making this man lose everything he has. And regardless of what he believes, it's our opportunity and our job and our honor, honestly, to come to his rescue and try to save him and help him as an American. That's all that mattered. And dude, that's what this is about. And I'm trying my best to get that out there. And it's hard as hell, bro. But like, we're in it now, right? That's it.
Well, I'm going to do everything I can to certainly spread the word, man. And I've definitely got, birthdays and Christmas and all that stuff. I got ideas now. So, also, patriotism is not partisan. I love that. Would you be opposed to me doing a signpost with that if I, tag you in it and give you credit and stuff?
Not at all.
I'll make sure I'm wearing my Patriot gear and everything. But I just love that. I love that message. Like I love like succinct to the point messages that tell a big story, right? Like and like we can disagree and still be friends. They want us to hate each other. Don't let them win. Patriotism is not partisan. Like that's beautiful. So, man, I just love that so much.
That is literally, if I had to narrow the mission and the purpose of everything that I've done with this brand, that's it.
You should put that on a shirt.
What's that?
You should put that on a shirt.
I should. That's a good idea.
If you don't do it, I'm going to fucking do it. So
I should, man. I would. Yeah, but absolutely. I'd be honored to see you do that, dude. Please do.
Right on.
Please do.
Hell yeah. Well, that's my next, I'll do it tomorrow because I needed my next signpost idea anyway. So, all right. Well, that's from 10 months ago till now. What do you think the future holds? What are the plans moving forward? If you could say, I want to achieve this in a year or two, what have you got lined up for the rest of the year, and what's the future look like?
So I'll start with telling you what we have lined up, because that's easier to answer.
Yeah.
we started doing events. So we've done like FitCon, and we have a lot of really cool people behind this brand now. Like even like Dave Kiley, Diesel Dave, like he's wearing Patriot gear all the time. You're probably going to see it in the Diesel Brothers season this year, or this season. You got Rob Bailey, who's rocked the Patriot gear for me, and just a lot of really cool people that I've been able to meet through this. Andy Frisilla, and just all these people that are so incredibly powerful and motivational, and like they're embracing this brand as well, right? So we got into events. We're actually going on tour with Tommy Vext next week. That's awesome. Where are you? You're in Virginia, right?
South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina. Okay. Yeah. So Tempe, Arizona, and Tucson, Arizona, the 28th and 29th. And then on the 30th, we're in West Hollywood, and 31st, we're in Vegas. So we're doing 4 shows with Tommy. We're putting up a merch booth by his. And if anybody's following Tommy right now, he's wearing Patriot gear like every show. He wears it on stage. He performs in it. It's amazing. And I didn't even ask him to do it.
That's awesome.
And so that's kind of a big thing right now, is getting into more events. So if anybody knows of any events too, like if anybody can get us into, gun shows or car shows or whatever it is, like that's kind of where I want to really go to, because that's where I feel like I can actually interact with people and talk to them face to face and really get this brand out there. And then in addition to that, I just barely got an office and what's going to be a little bit of a storefront. So that's in the works too right now, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's kind of what we have going on right now. Oh, and then we're doing the Attilas. Are you going to be at the Attilas gym for the veteran outreach?
August? Yeah, I'm going to try to. So he was originally having it, I think, in June or whenever he had it scheduled before. I was definitely going, but now I've got to see if I can make the schedule work since he rescheduled it for August. If I can, I'm definitely going to be there for sure. Like I want to support, and so many people that I know that I love hanging out with are going to be there. So I'm pretty heavily involved with First Form, and so a lot of guys through First Form who I know really well are going to be there. So yeah, I want to for sure. I'm gonna try my best.
Yeah. Cool. If you come out, dude, it'll be good to see you. But yeah, we're doing that too. So we're gonna have a booth there. I reached out to Ian and asked him if we could do that, and he's like, hell yeah. So we'll have a booth there too. To answer your question about where I see it going and what I want to accomplish, this is the part that always makes people just say, okay, he's another one of those guys that's just crazy. But dude, I genuinely want to unite people, man. Like I feel like it's something that we actually can do, because if you look up the definition of patriot right now, one of the synonyms, like I said, other than nationalist and everything else, is actually partisan. It actually says partisan. And I'm like, how is that? It's not even possible. Like, you're telling me that every single one of the people in the service, because guess what? Everyone in the service to me is a patriot. You're telling me every one of them believes the exact same thing and leans the exact same way and has the same beliefs? Like,
hell no.
It's so divisive. And so what I want to accomplish with this more than ever is really to unite a people and to redefine patriotism. I want people to understand that patriotism is not partisan, and it doesn't matter what you believe. If you love the country and you're willing to defend it, like, that's it. And that's what's going to unite people. And that's, I guess that's the greatest, that's what I want to accomplish the most. Where I see it going, I mean, dude, who knows? Like, if you would have asked me if this is where we'd be right now before, homie, I never planned on starting a brand. Like, I thought I was going to be a sales coach for the rest of my life, which I do on the side still, but like, who knows, man?
Yeah.
Who freaking knows?
Those are some of the coolest journeys though, man, because they're organic 100%. And they're driven, they're driven by genuine things, not just this desire to make money or whatever. Are you familiar with Maj Toure, Black Guns Matter?
I'm not.
Okay. I thought I saw him wearing one of your shirts, like the Freedom Over Everything shirt at some point. I just had him on the last episode. I haven't even dropped that yet, but he's I only mention this because he's having an event in September called the Solutionary Summit. And he's extremely pro 2A. His whole thing is he goes into these heavily democratic left-run cities and holds like Second Amendment awareness courses and teaches people basically in the hood responsible gun ownership. And
that's awesome.
He comes from a perspective of, and this is his tagline basically is, all gun control is racist, because gun control started out of pure racism, because it was like, we can't let black people be armed. How do we do that? And so he's obviously, he's a black guy, and that's what he's all about. And he's having this big event down in Miami in early September called the Solutionary Summit. It might be something you're interested in, and I might try to
awesome. If you want to, I'd love it if you connect me, and I have a bunch of people I'll connect you with too, man. Like, this is one thing I love about this. When we're homies now, so I'll connect you, you connect me, like, for sure. That's how we make things happen. I'd definitely be down to do something like that.
Yeah, I'll put you in touch with him, dude. Actually, just today, his main Instagram got shut down. It's insane. But his Black Guns Matter account is still up, and his backup account is still up, which is like, if you're a conservative or right leaning person these days, like, you have to have a backup account. Like, it's so crazy. I lost mine for over a month once. They didn't give me any reason. They just turned it off.
Yeah, I lost mine for a couple of weeks, and then I was able to get it back because it was just a bogus thing. I was one of the lucky ones, but
it's wild, man. But anyway, I'll put you in touch with him. I think he's doing this big event down there, and I'm going to try to make it to that as well. But all right, so that's basically, where the future is going for you, and man, I tell you what, it's so cool to see, like, through what has happened over the last year or two, to see stuff like your brand become what it has, and to grow, and to see that there are people who support this same mindset. I mean, same thing with Sean Whalen and his brand. And I've had him on the podcast, and he's like, he's got some awesome ideas. He's kind of the same way. He's like, I don't care if you're right, left, whatever. He's like, freedom, patriotism, work hard. And so many guys are of the same mindset that it gives me a little hope. It really gives me a little hope.
It does, right? Like, it really does. It really does. And it's these kind of things that more people need to hear, because if they, I have so many people come at me so hard about, just like they do with you, with the Nazi and the nationalist, and you're just a racist and blah, blah, blah. And you're far right. And it's like, I mean, I supported Trump. Cool. Like, sure. And I'm very outspoken about Biden and the clown show that's going on right now. But that's not just because it's left. It's because it's an absolute clown show. That's why I'm loud about it.
Exactly.
And if it was the right, I'd be doing the same damn thing. Right. But if you would just reach out and actually talk to me, you would realize that it's not about right or left, and it's not about color, and it's not about this. And it's just like, if more people were willing to listen, and more people were willing to seek to understand before they try to fight, damn, dude, this country would be in a totally different place. Totally different place.
I agree 100%, man. Well, I think that's a perfect spot to wrap this sucker up.
Sure.
Ian Wendt, where can people find you, man?
Yeah, my Instagram's where I'm the loudest. So it's iWenster, IWENDTSTER. You got to type in the full thing. I'm crazy shadow band, and don't do iWenster too. That's my backup. I mean, you can join my backup, but do iWenster. And then we have the company Instagram, which is the official Patriot Gear, and then the website is officialpatriotgear.com. And I'll do a thing for you, dude. What's your, just pick a word, pick a keyword for a code. I'll give everybody that listens to this a code.
HURT.
HURT. Okay.
Yeah, my last name.
HURT will get you guys 20% off your order. So
hell yeah, and I'll post that on my stuff too. Unless you want to limit it to listeners of the podcast, we can do that as well.
Oh well, no, I don't care, dude. Okay, I don't care. Cool. Again, dude, this whole thing is all about putting Patriot on back. I don't even freaking care. Yeah.
Right on. Well,
100%.
We'll hopefully get it on some people's backs, man. And you know, I might pick your brain at some point about, you know, kind of the other side of what you do, the sales stuff and all of that, and talk a little more about the finer points of an apparel company, because I've got a few things that I'm going to be launching here soon, and I'd love to talk to somebody who's been through it recently and experienced all of that. So,
yeah, man.
Anyway, totally, my friend, dude, I took so much from this. I thank you so much for your time. Like, I'm going to start journaling to my daughter. That is amazing.
Hey, and please tell me about it, dude. Like, I want you to talk, like, actually tell me about that. I want to hear about it, dude, because it really has been one of the biggest blessings in my life.
Well, here's the thing, man. Like, I've always heard how great journaling is, and I've always had these thoughts of I should journal, but I never could really get into just like writing just kind of a monologue to myself.
Today I did it. Yeah.
But if I'm like, Dear Carter, this is what happened today, and here's what's going on in the world, and oh man, that changes everything. Like, I'm writing it to my daughter. That's so perfect, man. And I know I'll actually do it. You know, I'll actually want to do it. So.
Yeah, for sure. That's how it was for me too. Like, journaling is hard for me because I'm like, I don't want to, I mean, you know, whatever, but talking to my son and like giving him advice and telling him about what I'm learning and telling him about my failures and telling him about, you know, what I think I suck at, but what I'm trying to do better, and how being a father to him is, and how grateful I am for him, and just what's going on in the world and where I stand, and what, you know, what our family's doing, and my love for his mother and all that stuff. Like, that's the kind of stuff that's going to be invaluable, I feel like, to him when he's able to crack it open and read it. And the other thing is, I don't type it out. I write it because I want that to be like, you know, to read a handwritten journal that's who knows how thick it's going to be when I give it to him. You know, that's
so cool.
I'm stoked for you, man.
Did you come up with that yourself, or had you seen that somewhere?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, I thought about it myself. Actually, the night that my son was born.
Oh shit.
Because I was just thinking to myself, like, I want to, you know, I want to give my son everything I can, and I want him to be far better than I am, and the best version of himself. And so I just, you know, I want to teach him all these things. And in my mind, I was like, well, why don't I just write to him about it? Like,
yeah,
you know,
100%. So. Well, like I said, man, I greatly appreciate your time.
No, same, man.
I like to end every episode with a question, and I just realized I forgot to do this with Maj with his episode, so I'm going to have to get him to answer it for me in a separate video. But very simple. You know, if you could give one piece of advice to men age 18 to 22, you know, young men today, what would that be?
Add value before you negotiate. So everything in life, whether it's your relationship, whether it's a new job that you're trying to get, whether you have a job or a position and you're trying to negotiate a higher position or a salary or a raise or whatever it is, too many people in life try to negotiate before they add value. So add that value, and add so much value that when you negotiate, it's impossible to not give you whatever you're asking for. And that can even be, just the universe in general, right? If you are constantly adding value to the world and to society in general, whether you're spiritual or not, like you believe in God or whatever it is, whether it's God or just good force in the universe in general, it's a real thing that you are going to receive anything you put out tenfold. So add value and then negotiate. I
love it, man. That's beautiful. That's perfect. Thank you so much. At at what is the Instagram again? At iWinster?
iWinster.
And at the official Patriot Gear.
IWEN. Yep.
Got it. Sweet, man.
iWinster, IWENDTSTER. The official Patriot Gear is the IG account, and then officialpatriotgear.com is our website.
Right on. And you guys can use code word HURT to save a little money. Go buy this stuff, support this guy.
Yep.
I'll link to his website and put all of his social in the caption on the YouTube video. But if you're listening, make sure you guys check him out. And thank you so much for your time, brother. We got to do it again, man.
Dude, yeah, this was awesome. Appreciate you, bro. This was great.
All right.